Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to my Russian Grand Prix preview. Now, I'm not going to lie, this isn't a race weekend I tend to get too excited about because generally speaking, it hasn't thrown up all that many good races during its short time on the calendar. That being said though, last year bucked the trend just a little bit. It was a race I actually quite enjoyed, and thanks to one moment at least, it's a weekend that is still very much well remembered. As the lights went out, we had a decent squabble between Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel on the run to turn 1, a battle that would reignite later in the race. Charles Leclerc pulled off a stunning move around the outside of Kevin Magnussen at turn 3 on the second lap, one of the moves of the season. Well, for me at least. It was a miserable race for Toro Rosso as both Brendan Hartley and Pierre Gasly went for spins thanks to brake issues, which soon forced them into retirement. But at the main Red Bull team, Max Verstappen pulled off one of his textbook comeback drives. Having started down in 19th place thanks to a 43 place grid drop, he managed to make his way up to P7 by the end of lap 5 and up to 5th by turn 1 on the 8th lap, with the Dutchman eventually going on to finish in that 5th place. Absolutely brilliant drive. Back at the front, Valtteri Bottas was in control, but behind him, Sebastian Vettel had managed to jump Lewis Hamilton through the pit stops to take 2nd place. However, as the two charged down that long first straight, Hamilton went for a move only for the Ferrari to make a very late defensive move which could have easily ended in contact. In my view, it was a move that was just a little bit too late. Just a couple of corners later though, the Mercedes made the move stick to make it a Silver Arrows 1-2. But that was not the end of it. Hamilton was suffering with a small blister on his tyres and the team felt that he was under threat from Vettel. So, as I am sure you will all remember, they took the decision to ask Bottas to move aside and let his teammate through. A call that sparked anger at the time from many fans who felt that it was an unnecessary move from the team, and a call that gave birth to a meme that absolutely does my nut in. Yes, Valtteri, it's James. All of that happened in the first 25 laps, and to be fair, after that it did go a little bit quiet. Still though, it was definitely a step up from previous races in Sochi. Right then, time for me to throw a load of stats your way, and as ever, some of these are provided by Lights Out Blog, so thank you so much to them for that, and you can find a link to their site in the description down below. The Sochi Autodrome is a 5.848 kilometre track, that is 3.634 miles if you would prefer, that consists of 18 corners, 6 to the left and 12 to the right, with the race running for 53 laps on Sunday. The race lap record is held by Valtteri Bottas, who set a 1:35.861 during last year's Grand Prix, and the Finn does actually also hold the record for the fastest ever lap around the circuit, thanks to his pole lap of a 1:31.387 in 2018. The circuit sits on the site of the venue for the 2014 Winter Olympics and held its first Grand Prix in October of the same year. Since its debut, it has hosted a total of 5 races with 3 drivers taking victory in that time, and they are Lewis Hamilton with 3 victories, Nico Rosberg and Valtteri Bottas. Yes, Mercedes have won all of them. In fact, there were actually 2 Russian Grand Prix held prior to 2014, but they were all the way back in 1913 and 1914, obviously pre-F1. But I wanted to mention it because they were also both won by Mercedes, or Benz as they were known back then. Anyway, random stat out of the way. The pole sitter has only gone on to win twice in 5 Grand Prix, but has always finished on the podium. And the safety car does like to make an appearance in Sochi, with 4 of the 5 races held being affected by at least one at some point. What about overtaking then? Well, turn 2 is a good spot as it is the first major braking zone, and it is also preceded by a fairly long DRS zone, and there is plenty of runoff as well, meaning that there is a get out of jail free card if you like, if a driver does go for a late braking gamble. Turn 4 also offers up a solid opportunity, as Lewis Hamilton showed last year in his battle with Sebastian Vettel. That though is pretty much all about the run you get through the awesome turn 3. 90 right, 90 left, pretty much all the way to the end of the lap from there. And so we might see some moves through corners like 5 and 7, for example, but probably the next surefire overtaking opportunity comes at turn 13. You've got the long DRS run on the way to it, and it is another heavy braking spot, so I fully expect to see more than a few moves there. After that, though, it is unlikely that we will see too much action before they come back around again to turn 2. As for race strategy, well, the tyres available for this weekend are the hard C2, the medium C3 and the soft C4. Last year, Lewis Hamilton won the race with a 1-stopper, and that is very much the norm for Russia because the track isn't all that demanding on tyres. The circuit is very much all about traction and braking, really something you'd expect from most 90 left, 90 right layouts. And if you are interested, Pirelli have said that it is the front right tyre that gets worked the hardest over the course of a lap. What could mix things up quite nicely though this weekend is the weather. Currently, there is a good chance we will see rain for FP3, and although conditions should improve for quali, the risk of rain still currently sits at 70%. Race day is, at time of recording, forecast to be dry, but there is still a 40% chance that rain could fall. A bit of rain in Russia would spice things up very nicely indeed. As ever, I'm just going to have a run through a few stories that have been doing the rounds prior to this weekend, starting with some bad news for Red Bull fans. All 4 Honda-powered cars will be taking grid penalties for this Sunday's race. So Max Verstappen, Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly are all set to drop 5 places on the grid after they fitted the new Spec 4 internal combustion engine. But Daniel Kvyat, at his home Grand Prix as well, is expected to drop right to the back of the field as he's apparently due to take a complete power unit change. So again, bad news for Red Bull fans, but great for neutrals, as that means we will have some fast cars out of position and might just see some good action. Alfa Romeo have had their protest against their penalties from the German Grand Prix thrown out by the appeal court. As you may well remember, Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi both picked up solid points finishes at Hockenheim, only to find themselves demoted out of the points after receiving hefty time penalties for breaching Article 27.1 of the sporting regulations, which says, quote, "Drivers must drive the car alone and unaided." That rejection from the courts, by the way, means that Robert Kubica does keep hold of his sole point for Williams. So every cloud and all that. According to racefans.net, it is expected that next season will be the last time that the Sochi Autodrome hosts the Russian Grand Prix, and that is despite signing a deal that would keep it where it is until 2025. But there are planned developments expected to take place in the area which could result in the track being made too short to run F1 races. Formula One is apparently, again according to race fans, aware of the possible change and are, quote, "content for it to go ahead providing the race moves to a venue they view as another destination city." Now there is currently a new circuit being constructed near St. Petersburg, and so it could well be that that is where the race moves to. At time of recording though, there has been no official word on all of this, so let's just wait and see what happens. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Would you be disappointed to see the Russian Grand Prix move from Sochi? And finally, just very quickly, it is also worth noting that the FIA have confirmed that the pit lane speed limit this weekend will be amended to 60 kilometers an hour following a recommendation from the FIA F1 safety delegate. That, in turn, will obviously increase the amount of time it takes for cars to make their way through the pit lane, therefore affecting race strategy. Again, obvious, but worth mentioning, and it wouldn't be an F1 word video without at least one obvious statement. Right then, it's that time again, time for some predictions, and it's not going to be an easy one this time around. I mean, my Singapore predictions were horrendous, but you know. What makes it so tricky this time, quite frankly, is Ferrari. Not many expected them to do all that well last weekend, yet they came away with a 1-2 finish and looked seriously quick when they bothered to put their foot down. And so now it's really hard to judge where they will and won't be strong. When I do these predictions, I tend to go off previous form around the circuit, and that would point to Mercedes taking victory. However, this week, I absolutely refuse to write off Ferrari entirely. I've learnt from my Singapore mistakes. As of right now, though, I would say that Red Bull will struggle, especially now they're taking those grid drops, and so I do think it will be between the other two, in before Red Bull finish 1-2 and lap the entire field. But anyway, Valtteri Bottas seems to love Sochi and could well go well again this time around, but I'm going to hedge my bets here a little bit. Again, based on previous form, I am going to go with Bottas for pole, but say that his teammate will take the win. Now, how we get there, I'll leave it up to your imagination, but I'm not going to go as far as to say that Mercedes will get a 1-2. Instead, I'm going to put Charles Leclerc second and Bottas third, with Vettel probably fourth. But I think we will be looking at a close run thing, and that could go any way. Honestly, I do believe this could be a very fascinating race. As for the best of the rest, that really is anybody's guess, isn't it? That certainly seems to be the case this season. You would expect McLaren and Renault to be right at the sharp end of that midfield, but I've also just got a gut feeling that Alfa could spring a surprise. Antonio Giovinazzi has been improving race on race of late, and we already know what Kimi Raikkonen is capable of doing. Plus, with that Ferrari power unit in the back and a couple of really long sort of straights, they could well find themselves doing a fair bit of overtaking. Therefore, going off what I've just said then, I'm going to go with Alfa for best of the rest. I will finish off by saying this though. If that midfield is anywhere near as close as it was in Singapore, we could be in for an absolute cracker. That is it then for the Russian Grand Prix preview, but in the top right of the screen there is, as ever, another poll for you to vote on, and this time around, I want to know who you think will top the midfield this weekend. And don't forget, as well as that, you can let me know your thoughts and your predictions down in the comment section. Now, I will be back soon with more content as ever, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.